Hey, everybody, welcome to From Struggle to Strength, where we explore personal journeys of resilience and transformation. I'm your host, Rob Cooper. As a veteran and someone who continues to navigate my own personal development, I've learned the importance of sharing the stories and the power of the recovery community. In each episode, I will be sitting down with inspiring guests who have faced their own battles only to emerge stronger. We'll dive deep into conversations about the struggles we face, the steps we take in recovery, how we can ultimately find strength in our most challenging moments. My own journey from military service to personal crisis and eventually to founding Zero Hour Life Center has taught me that nobody should have to face their darkest hours alone. This podcast is a platform for voices that uplift, experiences that empower, and stories that resonate with all of us. Join us as we listen, learn, and grow together from struggle to strength. You're not alone in your journey, and each story shared here is a reminder of that enduring truth. Without further ado, welcome to this edition of the Struggle to Strength podcast. Again, to another episode of Struggle to Strength. I have my guest today is the Honorable Mr. Mayor Ben Marciano. I met Ben probably about 2 years ago, and I first met him. He was telling his story at Recovery House in Ocala, Florida, and my first time ever seeing him. I heard great things about him. He was explain all the great successes that he had in his life, but when he told his story, it hit me. And they always say that you never know when you're gonna hear the message, and he told the message that evening to a bunch of men at this sober living. And so I have been following him. Sometimes I bug him, sometimes I just pop up and see him and just check on him. And it's an honor for me to have you as the guest. And welcome, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. I know you're a busy man like I am, but you're way busier than me because you in charge of Ocala. So uh, hey, I want to start off and you know talk about, people see you now as Mayor Ben Marciano, but I love with every guest, I love to go back because this podcast is from struggle to strength. I want to go back to Ben, the young man.
Mhm.
Ben, you know, how was your early life and how was it growing up for Ben Marciano?
Both my kind of going back just to childhood, because that's where a lot of it starts, right? A lot of addicts, alcoholics have childhood trauma. Both my parents struggled with addiction. My parents divorced at a young age, from New York to Denellen, which is in the middle of nowhere. It's in the woods. Most people might not even realize where that is. But some of my earliest childhood memories were my mom pushing me in a shopping cart because she couldn't afford a car. So we lived in subsidized housing. And my mom would move around a lot. She'd be in and out of relationships, trying to make ends meet, but she struggled with addiction. And I never felt safe. It was a lot of trying times. I remember being at parties and watching people snort a white powder off a mirror and not knowing what it was at the time. But as I got older, realized, they were snorting cocaine, or I had guns pulled on me, and just all these, things that a kid should not go through. It was definitely, I tell people when I'm sharing my story, if you could think of it happening to a kid growing up, it probably happened to me. And a lot of why, as I got older and start using, we'll talk about that. But I don't think I wanted to feel that pain anymore. I wanted to mask it. So there was a lot of childhood trauma from the experiences that I experienced growing up. At the age of 12, I did move in with my grandfather, and my grandfather was a retired New York City police officer. And I tell people I went from no discipline to extreme discipline. And one of the things that I share with people is that it's hard when you're not used to something like that, going into somebody every day trying to, teach you. And I took it almost like he didn't like me. But the people that are the hardest on us in our lives are really the ones that probably care the most. And my grandfather really instilled some great values in me that I never understood at the time, but I see him today. And a lot of that is who I am and has made me successful in life. So those are just, some of my childhood things, but we can get into some of the later stuff as you ask questions. I lost you for some reason. I can't hear you. Still nothing. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Are you there? You can hear me, but I can't hear
Yeah,
you anymore.
you can hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. Um, yeah, you said something, and I was thinking about this, and I was talking to a colleague of mine of how, you know, our childhoods shapes our destiny and sometimes affect us in adulthood. And there's some things that we have to, you know, we handle while we're adults that happen in our childhood. And and as a parent, you're a parent, you know, I'm very, very, mindful of how I deal with my sons, how I love on them, how I treat them, because if I impact them and show them and model and mentor them at a young age, it will save them, a lot of pain and suffering when they get adults. And um, so thinking back now, everything that you went through, um, how did it shape you to be the person you are today?
Well, I mean, a lot of when you're talking about a lot of the trauma stuff, I really when I realized it as I got on the other side of it and the addiction and kind of understanding, it really shaped a lot of control issues for me. I wanted to control situations because I never felt safe. I operated out of a lot of fear of just, being, losing things, abandonment, things like that. So, as you go through the program recovery, you learn all these defects that we pick up over life and this lens of how we view the world. And it was amazing. But most of, I'll just tell you as a general thing, a general aspect, it was like I was a scared little boy in a grown man's body from all the things that I had been through. And I really had to learn that a lot of that stuff was just not true. And I've done a lot of work on myself to become who I am today. And I've been able to work through those things, but it took a lot of work.
Yeah, 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 man. And you know, I know your story, and you went through some struggle. You went through some struggle. How did you get out the struggle and to get into strength mode? And I call people that successful that went through something, they're in their strength mode. And how did you get out the struggle and get into strength mode? Being a business owner, now being the mayor of Ocala. How did that happen?
Well, when you look at so when I got out of a treatment center in 2005, I had three pairs of clothes on a bicycle and they said, good luck. And my sponsor at the time said, don't go try and hit a home run, which I see a lot of guys early in recovery. That's what they want to do. They want to get it all back, right? All the stuff back. But that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make is that if you start chasing that, you take the focus off recovery, your foundation, eventually you'll relapse, right? We see it all the time. So I started as a janitor at a gym in 2005. And, I started slow. I built my foundation. And then a couple months later, I became a trainer. And then from there, I went to the YMCA and I started as a front desk person. And over 10 years, worked my way to vice president. But what I want to tell you is that I think early on, building the foundation of who I wanted to be was such an important part of it. And there's been different seasons of life that have helped me grow into who I am today. A lot of the key components that have made me successful is I put myself around really successful people that I want to be like. So I knew I struggled. There were times, Rob, that in my marriage that me and my wife were going to get a divorce. Like I kept trying. She would say something to me as simple as like, "Hey, can you take out the garbage?" And I'd be like, "What's wrong with you? You know what? I want a divorce." And it was like she'd be like, what is going on? Because that's all I knew. That's all I ever saw, was that, things don't go your way. You're mad about something, you leave, right? And so I really had to do a lot of work on my marriage and just all these inner things. And but I surrounded myself with really good people that helped me become who I am today. And just a lot of mental work, a lot of visualization of who I want to be, a lot of meditation in the morning, calming my mind. My mind used to be a hamster wheel, and it just I was never comfortable in my own skin. And today, I can sit in peace and I can have calm thoughts. And it was just a lot of practice of getting myself in that state. I had to unwind all of the behaviors that I built over the years that I built up from the trauma and the addiction that I had in my life.
One thing I like what you said, and you share the timeline, and you said it doesn't happen so fast. And I want people to understand that, because sometimes I feel as a society, we want that instant success, but this thing takes time. It takes time. It takes a lot of working on yourself and still working on yourself. And I use this a lot. I say, people want the success, but it's hard to keep it. It's hard to keep it. Um, so, you know, you started you started a gym. Okay. What made you want to do that?
So when I was at the YMCA, I had recently been promoted to vice president. I was youngest vice president in the organization. And there was a day that I just remember driving to Orlando. I had locations in Orlando and I felt very unfulfilled. And I believe that God moves me when I start to lose my peace. And I kept praying, God, what is your plan for me? And then one day I ran into an investor and he said, hey, why don't we open a gym? And I remember that conversation. And Rob, I'm a spiritual person. That night I went to sleep and in my dream, God spoke to me and said, you're going to open your own gym. And I said, oh, I can't do that. I can't compete against the YMCA and all this. But I felt God calling me and my wife and I prayed on it and we knew it was a calling. And when you are living in God's calling, when he's calling you, you can almost see the pieces of the puzzle line up, right? And he started kind of lining up the pieces of the puzzle and I saw all these doors opening. But in the same respect, while I was at the Y, they were doing everything they could to try and keep me. They're offering me all this money, they're begging me to stay. And but I knew that God was calling me. And I will tell you, everybody was telling me, Ben, don't leave and open this gym. It is going to be the worst thing that you've ever done in your life. It's a failing gym. When I bought that gym, it was losing $40,000 a month. It had a horrible culture and stigma. And people said, there's no way you can turn it around. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose everything. But I knew God called me to it. So I took the leap of faith. And it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. It was 9 months. People tell you all the time, you think you know what it is to be a business owner, but until you're a business owner, you have no idea. And the pressures and stress that came with it were unbelievable. And it took me to a tough place. And I share this in 2014. I had 10 years of sobriety. I wound up drinking again because I didn't have a program of recovery in my life. I made my business and my worldly strive is the most important thing in my life. And I remember one day sitting in a parking lot of a Walgreens, and the obsession to use kicked in, and I had no defenses left. And I walked in and I bought 2 bottles of wine, and I went to a hotel and I drank. And I remember I told my wife, I said, if I ever drink again, or if I ever drink, she knew nothing about me being in active addiction. I said, if I ever drink, you give me 2 choices: either get my stuff, get out, or get yourself to a program and get better. And she put that ultimatum in place, and I chose the latter and got back into recovery and did what I needed to do. But man, it was a major wake up call how it snuck up on me.
Yeah, yeah. So right now, how do you handle the success right now? How do you handle the success, and how do you handle pressures, the stress? What do Ben do? What do Mayor Ben do to just release,
Yeah, good question. I think there's days that I do it well, and there's other days I still struggle. I'm always trying to grow and get better. I know when I do use my tools, which are, talking to my sponsor, go into a meeting, getting it out. I learned early on and I think that's part of the reason why I relapsed in 2014. I wasn't talking about it and I literally imploded. There is something about talking to other people in recovery and getting it out that frees you from it and being able to get some guidance. So I'm really good about talking about when I'm struggling, getting it out. My meditation in the morning, I do it in the morning before I wake up and start the day, is been transformational for me. I wake up, I calm myself, I do deep breathing, and then I visualize myself walking through my day. I'm almost training my mind to be successful. I'm envisioning, having to handle situations and how I stay at peace. I was telling someone earlier today, you get hit from a lot of different directions as a mayor. So how I define success is regardless of my circumstances and what's happening around me, can I stay balanced and at peace, regardless of what I'm in? And those are the wins that I get. And I assess that at the end of the day and how I do. But when I'm prayed up, I'm talking to my sponsor, I'm meditating, and I'm taking care of my health, I'm normally able to handle things pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And man, I admire that about you. Admire that about you. So you go from owning the gym, life is good. All right. Open up another gym, life is good. What made Ben the gym owner and want to run for mayor of Ocala?
I'll tell you, man, it was I chased success, I chased money, I chased the big house, the cars, everything that from a worldly perspective they tell you will make you happy. And I was trying to fill that hole inside with that. And I remember one day sitting in the parking lot of my business, and I called my sponsor, and I said, hey, I said, I think I'm going to sell Zone. I said, I'm not happy with it anymore. And he said, Ben, I've been waiting for this conversation. I need to talk to you about something. So he said, Ben, the problem is not Zone. I'm thinking, okay, well, what is it? And he says, the problem is you. He said, the problem is you. He said, you're very selfish. Everything you do is about you, Ben. He goes, I'm going to make it real simple for you. He said, if you will do two things, I think you'll find everything you're looking for. He said, if you'll serve God and you serve others, you'll find what you're looking for in life. But right now, everything you do is always about serving Ben. And then he hung up on me. And I had to sit in my car and I had to think about that. And he was right. Everything I was doing in my life was about me. There was always an underlying motive. Anything I was doing relationship wise, everything, it was always about me. And man, it really hurt me to think that. And I thought about, okay, well, what is it that I want to be remembered for? And I don't want to be remembered for someone that just was selfish and never made a difference in people's lives. So that day I went into work, I prayed in my car and I asked God to open my eyes. And I went in and I just started talking to my employees and just trying to share with them that I wanted to be there for them. And one by one, they started opening up and sharing their hurts. And I just listened, but a lot of them had a lot of freedom. And then there were ways that I could help them. I helped them. And I remember that night I went home and I walked in my house and I was beaming, and my wife could see like that there was something different about me. So she said, oh, you must have had a great day at work with the numbers, because that would normally determine my happiness, is if the numbers were good. And I said, no. And I said, that wasn't it. And she said, well, what was different? I said, I was different. I said, Danielle, I finally figured out what my purpose in life is. It's to serve people. And so for about 2, 3 years, everything I did at Zone was about serving the community. We started hiring staff that were in recovery. We really focused on the community, and I really loved it. And I found my purpose in life and peace and happiness. So then I had this opportunity. An investor approached me and said, hey, let's open a bunch of zones and franchise the concept. Any other business person would say, yeah, that's a dream. That was always my dream. And I said, I need to think on it. And he said, well, you got a couple of days, you need to think on it. So I'm in church and I'm praying. I see Jesus on a cross, and I'm like, God, what do you want from me? And I heard God say, you're now ready for what I've prepared you for. Okay, well, what is it, God? What have you prepared me for? And that's when he put on my heart, you're going to be the mayor of Ocala. And I said, oh, no, I'm not.
Right.
All this fear creeps in. And, well, obviously, one of the things I didn't share with you, in my story, but I was arrested for a felony drug charge. I have this horrible past, of all these things that I've done that people know about. And I'm thinking, there's no way I can be a mayor. Now, I've had my record expunged, but still, I mean, people know I've been arrested. And, every time I prayed, God just kept saying, you're going to be the mayor. And I prayed with my wife and she said, oh, no, yeah, you're called to be the mayor. So then we said, okay, well, what is it? How are we going to do this? Because people are going to find out about all these things. And we said, well, you know what? Let's just tell your story to everybody. So we took out a 3-page editorial in the Ocala style, and we shared my story about me being homeless from drug addiction, me being arrested, going to a treatment center, all the things that I did, and then how I've rebuilt my life and now how I use that to serve people. And I believe that the things that I've been through in my life can now make me the perfect mayor for this community. And then I announced that I was going to run, and it was received extremely well. No one ran against me. I think it was one of the first times it's ever happened. And it was just amazing. God lined up everything for me to be the mayor. And you could tell that that was the plan for me to be in office.
Yeah, just thinking over your story, man, and thinking over your life. God was ordering your steps from that day that you went the treatment on to now to where you are. What did you want to be when you grew? When you was little, Ben? What was that career? What was that job that you wanted to be when you grew up?
So funny. I was just going to tell you what I wanted to be before you asked the question. So my grandfather who raised me was a retired cop. everything I wanted in Rob in life was to make him happy. My grandfather could never tell me he was old school. So everything was never good enough. He could never tell me he loved me, appreciated me, but I knew he did, right? So I went to school for law enforcement. I actually was in my senior year at FSU, and I was going to graduate with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I got arrested. Okay. And changed the whole trajectory of my career path. But you know what? God had a plan all along. When you think about it, God said, you're not going to be a cop, you're not going to be a major, you're not going to be a police chief. You're going to be the mayor of a community, okay, over the police department. And you're going to use all your struggles in your life that you've been through to help your police department be better and serve your community. And that's really been the thing. And that's one of the messages I try to give people, is that you don't know what God's plan is for you. You know, I thought my life was over when I got arrested. You know, I thought my life was over, you know, that I would never have a path to be involved with law enforcement, but now I do. And I'm the mayor of a community. Now, it took a lot of hard work, and I believe that God has blessed me from the things that I've done that have put me here. But he has a plan, and it's surreal when I think about it. My grandfather passed away 5 years ago, and when I was sworn in, I could feel his presence shining down, going, "Oh,
Right.
man, I'm proud of you." And I believe
Right.
that he is. I believe my grandfather's super proud of me today for where I'm at. So it's pretty neat.
I love it. I love it. You know, running a campaign is hard. You know, did you face any challenges during your campaign? Did you that you can look back on that, you know, made you like, man, what did I get myself into? You know, did you face any during your campaign?
So even though I shared my story and I shared everything, there was still a group of people that were out there making up stuff about me. Like, man, it was crazy, the stuff that they were saying, you know, and they were talking to people in the community. There's always going to be a group that does that, right? And you know, the initial response, like in my mind, was like, well, I need to say something. I need to retaliate. I need to defend myself, right? And I had really good people around me that said, you don't need to defend yourself. Just keep doing the right thing. You know, the people that need to know, you know, it wasn't true that what they were saying. And, you know, and it was a good lesson for me that I don't have to respond. I don't have to get caught up in that. You know, a lot of times when people are doing that, those people know the people that are saying that aren't necessarily the trustworthy group of people.
Right.
When you're trying to bash somebody, people are smart enough to figure that out. So that was the hardest thing during the campaign. Being the mayor, there's been a lot of things that have come up that have made it really hard along the way. I mean, heck, the first 2 weeks I was in office, we had the shooting in the mall.
Yeah.
And man, I did not sleep for 2 weeks because we were on edge, you know, knowing that we had that guy in the community, and really just caught me. And it, you know, that's not something you can train for, but it really was, man, I
Right.
was,
Right.
I was on edge, and it was hard, and it got me to experience what our cops go through for a couple of weeks, not to their level, but understanding that you don't get to shut off during the holidays when something like that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, when that happened, I said, he ain't even been there a month yet. And it already got faced. But I think, and this is me from the outside looking in, I think everything that you've been through, the struggles that you've been through, prepared you for this.
Absolutely.
Prepared you for this, where you are, like you said, this is your purpose, and you're in your purpose. And I'm a firm believer that everything that we go through, we don't go through in vain, and we can use it. And I use it for God's glory now in these days, because at the end of the day, he got to get the glory. So, you know, um, what being a mayor, you know, what do you want to see the city of Ocala become? What are some goals that you have for the city of Ocala? How you want to move it forward? We got so many people moving here. It's like, you know, roads are getting busier and
Yeah.
and all that. You as the head guy of this city, where do you want to see it?
Well, you know, my big initiative is to improve the mental health of this community. And it's not only Ocala that's struggling with mental health, it's across the country. But, you know, I put a major focus on that. I'm using this platform to educate people that you can get better, give people hope. And I've heard it, you know, I've talked to some of the treatment centers, and, you know, we did just a little bit of a sidebar. Our attorney general came to town, Ashley Moody, and she found out about my story. So she had her staff reach out and asked if I would close out her press conference and share my story. Initially, I was like, there is no way I want to do this. But then I thought, if it could help somebody, I need to do it. So I was very vulnerable, very transparent. I shared it. And you know, it was crazy because a law enforcement commissioner came up to me afterwards and he put his hand on my shoulder, and I thought, oh, maybe I said too much and I'm in trouble.
Right.
Right. So he said his comment to me was, son, I've never heard anything like that before, but you're going to save lives with that story. And they told me the next couple of days after that press conference, the treatment center lines were ringing off the hook. People were surrendering and asking for help. So the number one thing I'm doing is using this platform just to be vulnerable and share my story. So that's been a huge thing. The other thing that we've been doing is we've been trying to highlight all of our resources that are available to people in the community on how they can get help. Because I still get calls every day that people just don't know how to do it. And we're actually creating a website that will have all the services in the community available, and then we're going to brand it so people know this is where I can go to find help if I'm struggling with addiction, mental illness, whatever it is. And we're going to be getting that site out pretty soon. We've also put a major focus on the physical health. When you're physically healthy, you're mentally, there's a lot of benefits to that, but you're also just feeling so much better. So those have been big initiatives of mine that I've been really putting a lot of time into. But I will tell you the underlying thing that I really want to do, I don't think we struggle like most cities, but I think we have our own divisions. And I've tried to be a mayor that focuses on the positive and brings people together. All my messaging, if you look at it, there's enough people out there in politics that focus on division and pulling people apart. I've been trying to be the opposite, just trying to, we created a Citizen of the Month to focus on people that are doing great things and what they're doing and hopefully set the example for others. But I do believe the way that we make changes through love. I think you can have your boundaries and what you believe, but you can still act in love and kindness. And I've tried to set the example of doing that, just by bringing people together. And so I have a lot of initiatives that I'm tackling, but the big one that I want to do is continue to, maybe we can be the example of how we bring people together for a good of a community to get things done. That's been a big.
Yeah, I like seeing that segment that you do. You highlight people in the community that's doing good work. I really do highlight that. Then I see you're one of these mayors that you are active in your community and working out with Ben, working out with the mayor, and and that's good to see, because usually with politicians, you only see them on TV and they want that spotlight where they want to have an interview but you are still involved in the community. So how can the residents of Ocala get involved in the community and local government? How can the community really help you out to make sure that we become a great community where people want to come to and make this their home forever?
I think the biggest thing, first of all, we have tons of opportunities at the city if you want to get involved in boards and different things like that. And I tell people, find something you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, then you're going to serve more. There's so many amazing nonprofits in our community, but the biggest thing I would tell our community is be part of the solution, not the problem. Don't be someone that's negative and bashes. Figure out ways to help create solutions in the community. And if you have a struggle or you see something, a lot of times people try and bring things to me and they're like, hey, we need to fix this. So, what I normally say is, well, how are we going to do it? I'd love for you to head that up, right? Because right now I have, people don't realize our governmental structure. Like, I have the police department that reports to me, and I have a part-time assistant. And that's it as the mayor. So I can't be the one running everything. What I can be is a resource to help you. If it's something you're passionate about and you believe it makes a great difference in our community and it's going to make Ocala a better place, then I can be someone who can open doors and kind of support you through that process. But we need people to step up, do some work, and they already are, but be part of the solution, not the problem.